Hello guys, my name is Max and I want to show you in this tutorial how to create a classic Metroidvania game in Unity. I have some experience creating a Metroidvania in Unity since I took part in a game jam. The product of that game jam was Cyclopvania, a game that's which is on itch.io too. I created this with two guys. Feel free to check it out. Link is in the video description. On this section of this tutorial, in this chapter, I want to show you how to create some playable character you can control. You see it here. We have a player, the white capture. It can move to the left and to the right, and it also can jump. It jumps a little bit high. We can change this in the script I wrote for this chapter. Now it jumps a little bit less. We can decrease the thrust also. Yes. So this is what I want to do with you today. Let's continue. So at first we have to create a new scene where I can show you how you create all that stuff. I want to mention that this is the asset folder. This is the place where all the things you use in the game will be. You should organize this folder with some subfolders, like a subfolder for music, a subfolder for scenes or scripts or sounds, and so on and so on. Feel free to manage that yourself. I created a subfolder for scenes, and there is this scene you can see here. We will create a new scene. So we will name the scene level 1 for the start. And we open that scene. Oh yeah, of course, we should save this scene. So, as you see, we have only the main camera, and now we need two game objects. One game object for the floor and one game object for the player. For the player, we want to use a sprite of a white capture. It's something simple. Player. And for the floor, we need another sprite. A square will do this job. It's a little bit too high, so no. Yeah, exactly. We can change the color to green, so it's more looking like grass or something like this. Okay, perfect. So we have that floor. Now, we want to add physics to our player. For that, our player needs a 2D rigid body. And this rigid body will manage how the physics are working. We can increase the mass or the gravity scale, so it feels a little bit heavier. Also, the player needs a collider. 2D collider. The capsule collider will be perfect for that. Okay. Also, now our floor needs a collider too. And I'm not sure if the collider needs a rigid body, but I don't think so. We can test it. Yes, so now it's working. The physics are working, but the controls are not working until now. That's maybe problematic. We have to change that. At first, I want to mention the floor. Later in the game, the player has to know if he's touching the floor. For that, he is asking the tag of the game object he's colliding with. So we have to give the floor a tag. This tag can be floor. You have to create this tag before. So in order to create the tag floor, click on add tag and then on that plus, and you can change the name here to new tag and then go back, and then you can add the tag to the game object, but we want to keep it with floor. Floor will be fine. So the next step is that we have to complete the controls. Unity offers there a package for that. In order to download that package, we need you go to the package manager. This will take a little bit while. You have now the package manager. You can look for the packets that are in the project already. I already installed input system. We need this package for the controls, for using the controls in Unity. You have to download this. For that, you have to go into the Unity registry folder and have to look for the input system package. And then you have to install it. Input system package, that's the name of the package you need. And normally you go like this and then update or install here with the input system, but we already have that in the project, so it's fine. Then we go back to the assets folder. We create a new folder for the inputs, and you already can see I have here I created the inputs here. In order to do that the same way, you go to create and create new input actions. I call this input actions 2. It's just for the test, and then you open it. Okay, you have now this window. You have to create a new action map. This can be called new action map or player controls, or name it like you want to. And then you can add new actions. I call this jumping. So this jumping, this will manage the whole jumping button pressing stuff. You can add a new binding. At first, yes. Yeah, you have to say Unity whether how you want to use this. Here you have to put in press, so it's activating when the Unity button is pressed. Here you can say if it's a value or pass through or a button. Here you have to say the game which key you want to use. We go to the keyboard and then space. Space is cool. Yes, of course. What was this? Slow tap, press. Yes, exactly. So jumping is ready. Now we create a new one. This is movement. For movement, we want something different. Since movement in our case uses 2 buttons for the vertical movement to the left and to the right, so we don't use a button, we use a pass through. Yes, and now we add positive and negative binding. No, that was wrong. We use with 2 modifiers. No, this was wrong too. I see. Genau, we use this action type of pass-through, and the control type is now button. It's now a vector too. So, and when we don't add a binding, we now add up, down, left, right, composite, down. and we only need a left and right, so we can delete up and down. And here we can say which button we want to use. This will be A, and right will be D. You also can copy this and paste. And now if you want to make it possible also for the gamepad, you can use like the right stick, left and right, and here the exact same way, but with, I don't know, select right, button south. So you have laid out you have created all the control settings for your game. I already did that. You have to save this, save asset. I already did that in the so-called level controls. Here you see it. It's the same thing we did before. This is how it have to look like. Now we can go into coding. I will delete this here. So we only need this. I already showed you. Okay. Yeah. So now we have to make a script for the player, and I will show you the script. We go into the scripts folder. So and the best thing would be if you create a folder for scripts. Organizing all your scripts, you will write a lot. We go in that. I made a subfolder for player character scripts, and there's a player script. We open it. Yeah, and here you see I already wrote this. So I will create a new script so I can show you the things I made. Test script. Okay, I created a new one so I can show you all the things I will do. Okay, this is how scripts are normally looking like. You by default have a start class. This is always starting when the script is first occurring in the game. And you have an update script. This class will be executed once per frame. This can be problematic for something like the player character because the frame rate will differ by devices, or maybe if you have frame drops, this can be problematic. So I suggest you to use the class fixed update instead, but not for everything, only the important things, you know. Okay. And the next thing is we have to use Unity Engine input systems. These are the codes we installed with the package input systems. We need that here because we are creating here the controls in that script. These are the two classes we need for getting the control inputs. We have one class for onMove. It's asking for the an input action triggered movement controls, and for the jumping controls we will save this in these two variables. We have them here. So this is a vector, and in the first number are the vertical movement saved, and we have this bool here. This will say whether the jump button is pressed or not, and this vector will say if it's 1, we are going to the right, and if it's -1, we are going to the left. I will show this later. So here, before you have any classes, you have to say which variables you are using. These variables are often shown in the inspector. The inspector in Unity is, I will show you this. You can see this is the inspector. You have the player script, and then you have something like toolbars or something like this, like captions, like toggle boxes. You have to say if you want to use that in the script. I can show you how you do that. You can use headers. So I will create one header in the inspector for the movement and one header for the jumping, so it's easy to read. Then we need like a float for the speed. We will use a range for that, so we can it's easier to use, and a tooltip. Then the next thing we don't need this. We have this already. Okay, here the same, the thrust for the jumping, we will need that too. And we have that. Okay, we have everything. And we need the rigid body, which is controlling the physics of our player. We will need this. And in the start class, we need to ask for the rigid body that is attached to the player. So here we're getting the rigid body of the player, and we can use it later on when we are moving or jumping. Yes, I already almost have everything. Yeah, we have the fixed update class here. This is executed regularly. Here we will call a new class, a new function called jump. I'm doing this for, yeah, it's looking cleaner, and this is a jump function. So this is a jump function. It's called the same way like fixed update, since we call it in fixed update. And the first thing we are doing is we are asking if jumped is pressed. You know, we're getting jumped here. And if the player is grounded. This is another variable we have to declare. Here. By start, it's true, but yeah, you will see it grounded. So if the player presses jump, and if the player is grounded, we will add a force to our rigid body. This will thrust our rigid body in the air. And if we are thrusting our player in the air, we are setting grounded to false. So the script knows, okay, we are not on the ground anymore, and we can't jump a second time. But how do we know if the player is hitting the floor again? So we have to use a class called onCollisionEnter. I will copy this here. onCollisionEnter. onCollisionEnter is called when the collider of our objects hits another collider of another object. And if this happening, we ask which tag the collider of the other object has. And when the tag of the other object is floor, we know the player is grounded again, and when that happens, we are able to jump again. So we can't do endless jump in the air. It would be like flying. this wouldn't work. Okay, we have jumping now. Yet now we only have to add the move mechanics. We doing that the same way. So now in fixed update we call the function move, and the function move will be very easy. Here you see it. All we doing in the move function is we adding another force to the rigid body in form of a vector. The x of that vector is movement input, the x variable of the movement input, times the speed, and another one is just the given force that is already on the rigid body, in the sky. Okay, that's everything that should be work. You know, this is the same script now. We don't need this variable. No, stop. We don't need this. We don't need this. And we don't need this. Okay, perfect. No, stop. This is wrong. Okay. Okay, perfect. Yes. When we are going back, now we wrote a script, and we have to attach that script to the player. Here is our scene. So we have the player and it's missing our script. Our script was called player script. Okay. Now you can see it. You can say the speed, maybe 8 is a good speed. 300 for the thrust is a little bit, maybe 40. Yes, perfect. Did we forget something? I think we forget something. Ah, yes, we forget something. We also have to say which inputs we are using. Yeah, genau. The player input. Yes. We have to add the player input to the player itself. We have to say which actions we are using, and we only have to. And we are using the level controls. Behavior. Invoke Unity events. And then we look in the events. And we are using the events we have in the player action map we created. So we have the jumping event and the running event. And now we have to track the player in that. And we have to select what the method we wrote it in the player script. And this was on jump for the jumping. And the same way here. And now player script and on move. So okay, this is working. I'm still thinking we forget something. We are testing the game now. Ah yeah, we forgot something really important. So we now have the physics, but we have to say our rigid body that he isn't allowed to rotate. So we go to the rigid body 2D and looking for constraints, and in the constraint we want to say freeze rotation. And then it's finished for today. It's a little bit a lot of jumping. So you go here and say less jumping. You can also make the player heavier. This will work too. This was too heavy. Yeah, it's always the same. You have to look how much is the best. This is a little bit much. Something like this. This is also not a trivial question, how to create the physics behavior. I will add you a link in the video description. I have to look for describing a good jumping ratio. I recommend you to read this. Okay, this was it for today. Wait, I want just one more test. This looks cool. Okay, this was it for today. See you in the next episode. Yes, have a nice day.